have a 2013 Ford Fusion. This has a 1.6 EcoBoost engine, and we are going to do an oil change on this vehicle today. So now that we've got the vehicle overhead, we're going to locate our oil drain plug, which is here. In our case, it's this 13 mil plug here. Loosen this. And from here, we can screw it out with our hands. Make sure you wear some gloves because you will get some oil spill. And we're going to catch it in our oil drain right here. There we go. We're going to let this oil drain all the way to a trickle, and once everything's nice and dry, we're going to put the plug back in and we can set the vehicle back down. Once the oil has stopped draining from the engine, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our drain plug. Take our wrench or ratchet and install this plug. It doesn't have to be super tight, just snug, just enough to seat the O-ring. Okay, too tight is going to strip the plug, and it can also pull the threads out of the oil pan. So we want to make sure that we're careful. Just make it nice and snug to seat the O-ring. Wipe off any residue. So you're also going to want to check where your filter location is. Some of them, the paper filters on modern vehicles, are actually in the engine bay. Some of them are underneath. In our case, we have a metal filter. It's in this housing right on the front of the engine. We're going to lower that down and let the oil drain out. As you start to break this loose, and the O-ring unseats, you will start to get some oil to drain out there. You're going to want to let that drain. Let the filter housing drain as much oil out as possible. It makes it a lot less messy when you're getting the filter housing down. O-ring is still on this filter housing. Sometimes what can happen is these O-rings can come off. They'll stick on the engine side, and then when you install your new filter, you've got a double gasket, and you're going to start to leak pressurized oil. It'll start to leak up pretty fast, so hopefully you catch it before you realize that there's an issue. But make sure that the O-ring always comes down, and double check your engine flange to make sure that this O-ring isn't still stuck up on the engine block. So we have our new filter here. We here at Canetta's use all quality Champ filters whenever we do oil changes. We're going to want to lubricate with just some new fresh oil this O-ring that's on this filter. We don't want to dry fit these O-rings because they can leak. Once they start to heat cycle, if there's no lubrication on this O-ring, it can start to leak oil. So always just take a fingertip worth of fresh, clean oil. We'll lubricate this O-ring and we'll get this installed. Very similar to a drain plug. You don't want to over tighten this. You don't want to use any pliers or any tools to install the filter. Hand tight, nice and snug, and you shouldn't have any issues. So now that we have the vehicle set back down, we got the engine bay open, we can start to check things like check our antifreeze level. We also test it whenever we have a vehicle in here in the wintertime, just to make sure that the freeze point of the antifreeze is going to withstand the temperatures that we have here in central New York. We also check the washer fluid, and now that everything is sealed up on the bottom, we've got our plug back in, we've got our filter back on, we can start to fill the engine with fresh, clean engine oil. In this case, we're using 4.5 quarts of 520 full synthetic, and we can start to fill it. we have the engine filled with the proper amount of oil and the proper grade of oil, we're going to reinstall our oil cap. We'll start the engine for about 15 to 20 seconds. We'll let it run, then we'll shut it off, and we'll use our dipstick to check our engine oil level. So now that we've got the engine run with our new fresh oil in, we're going to pull the dipstick and just check and see that the engine oil level is up at the max mark. Always wipe the first one and check again the second time. We're right at the full mark and we're good to go. So now that we've got the engine oil level topped off, our dipstick reads really well. We want to, like I said, check our antifreeze, we'll check our washer fluid, which have both already been checked. Just give the engine bay a once over before you shut the hood and let you know that everything's all good to go.
Good afternoon, this is Rob Canetta from Canetta's Collision Service. I hope you enjoyed our video and I hope it was informative. Stay tuned for some additional videos down the road. Thank you.